Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to be making another simple form of cupboard latch. This one's going to be a sliding deadbolt type. Now this is a very simple form of latch, and you can build the whole thing at the bench if you want. You could use a straight pin for the knob or turn it on a lathe, but what I've done here is forge the traditional mushroom kind of top that's found on a lot of ironwork. It's a pretty simple detail, but it does illustrate how a little bit of forging can add a lot to the piece. The trick to forging this detail is to start off very slowly. In the first heat there's very little upsetting that's being done. You're basically just shaping the point, and this process is going to help you start to shape that inside radius that you're going to need. In this heat I'm just visualizing where I want the underside of that mushroom cap to be, and then I just hit and rotate until it starts to conform to the edge of the anvil. I'm going to be using this inside edge as a reference point in the next heat, so it's important that it's very even and uniform around the entire piece. In the next couple of heats I just continue this process, and I make sure that I work around the bar very evenly so that the material that's being upset into the knob at the end of the bar is very centered and uniform. As you continue forging, you'll notice that at one point you'll have gathered enough material and the bar just seems to lock itself over the edge of the anvil. At this point you can move to a sharper edge of the anvil to define the cap further. And now it's just a matter of cleaning up the forging until you get the shape that you want. I usually try to file as much as I can before I cut the piece from the bar. Now I'm ready to cut the knob away from the rest of the bar. I'm using the vise insert to hold the knob in the vise. This not only makes it easy to measure for the tenon, but the next operation is going to be actually filing the tenon, so all I need to do is reposition the vise insert, and I'm ready to start filing. To file the tenon, you're going to need a file with a safe edge. That's simply a file that has the teeth ground off on one side. So here the thin edge of the file has a safe edge, so I can work right up against the vise insert without damaging it. You don't need to file away a lot of material to create the tenon. It just has to have a slight shoulder, and it needs to conform to a drill bit that you have. Here, for example, the original bar stock was 5/16, and I've just filed it down to 1/4 inch. Now you're ready to rivet the knob to the bolt. Make sure that the hole that you drill has a counter bore. That way you can create a rivet head below the surface of the metal. Here I'm using a small cross peen to expand the rivet head into the counter bore. I'll hammer in both directions until the rivet is flush to the underside of the bolt. Here I've already cut out the back plate, and I've created the slots that are going to hold the bolt guides in place. I've used exactly the same techniques that were used for the spring latch. The back plate and the bolt guides are made from 16 gauge sheet metal. And you can see how I've chiseled the slots in the back plate so that the tenons on the bolt guides would be off center. This makes it a little easier to keep track of the orientation of the bolt guide on the back plate as you're fitting the tenons. I realized when I was assembling this piece that I forgot to include one feature in the vise insert video. I needed to modify one leg of the vise insert to conform to the 1/4 by 1/2 inch flat bar that I'm using for the bolt. This end of the vise insert is going to be used to hold the bolt guides while I'm filing the tenons. I'm also going to be using the vise inserts to bend the bolt guides. Since the stock that I'm using for the bolt is 1/2 inch wide and I made the bolt guides using 1/2 inch square bar, I can wrap the bolt guide right around the vise insert for a perfect fit. If I was making bolt guides to fit a different size bolt, I would make a vise insert to fit that bolt guide. I wouldn't drill the holes in it like I have here. It would just be a straight-sided vise insert that I would use to bend the bolt guides and file the tenons. For this project, I just made everything fit this 1/2 inch vise insert to simplify things. Now all I need to do is clamp the bolt guide in the vise and, with the safe edge file, fit the tenons to the backplate. When I'm fitting the tenons to the backplate, I'll work on one bolt guide first and get that riveted into place, and then I'll slide the bolt in position and fit the second bolt guide. Once I have the first bolt guide riveted in position, I always keep the bolt in place on the latch plate while I'm fitting the second bolt guide. That way, as soon as I get it to fit, I'm ready to start riveting it into place and I haven't forgotten anything. You want to use very light hammer blows while you're setting the rivets. You need to hammer heavy enough to set the rivet, but not so heavy that it crushes the side of the bolt guide and blocks the bolt in place. So here's the latch in its completed form. I would just drill the holes that I need to mount this latch and then throw it back in the fire to even out all the textures. We'll see you next time.